Welcome to the PairRec San Fran Tourism channel. Our goal is to help you find your point of interest by showcasing the top attractions in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now today's focus will be phase 6 of a series of adventures on showcasing the hidden gems of Potrero Hill here in San Francisco. Now, phases 1 through 5, we emphasize all the important hidden gems, or many of them which, that primarily emphasize the northern side of the Potrero Hill. And believe it or not, there's also a southern side of the Potrero Hill that has even more hidden gems. Now, Potrero Hill is approximately 2 miles south of Union Square and approximately 4 miles south of Fisherman's Wharf. Also, in the phases 1 through 5, we emphasize the streets that were relevant for you to find the points of interest, such as 20th Street, 19th Street, 18th Street, Mariposa, and 17th Street. Now, these streets range anywhere from 10 to 15 blocks within Potrero Hill. However, as we begin our journey on the southern side of the hill, Potrero Hill, these streets are going to be a little bit shorter in length. And so, which means that we're going to be doing lots of lefts and right turns as we feature many of the hidden gems on the southern side of Potrero Hill. Now, we'll also find, I'll put a link in the description for all the phases that we've already experienced, 1 through 5, as I mentioned before. And that being the case, let's get started. Now, today's weather in San Francisco is 63 degrees Fahrenheit with 55% humidity, 6-mile-an-hour winds. Today's date is Tuesday, December the 1st, 2020. Time is 1:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, we're going to begin our journey here at the intersection of Missouri and 22nd Street. Now, we're at the 700 block of Missouri, and I want to emphasize the importance of the numbered block, as this is going to be important in terms of helping you find your point of interest, and that is how the streets are aligned. Now, we're going to be emphasizing the number block within each block as we move along. Now, in this situation, you see the arrow is pointing to the left. That is going southbound. That means that the number of blocks are going to be larger. But if you go in the opposite direction, the number of blocks are going to be smaller. So for instance, if you go in the same direction as the numbered block, the next block is going to be, as the arrow that is, the next block is going to be 800, then 900, then 1,000, etc., etc. But if you go in the opposite direction, number blocks, they're going to be smaller, and that is, they're going to be 600, the next block is going to be 500, 400, 300, until we get down to where the block begins at 000. Now, in this case, we're going to be going in the opposite direction of the arrow, which is going to be northbound. And as I said earlier, we're going to be making a bunch of left and right turns as we maneuver our way through the southern end of Potrero Hill. So, with that being the case, let's get started. Now, one of the things that makes Potrero Hill special, as well as the city as a whole, is the numerous hills and the architecture behind them. A lot of times you'll find a case where the hill will dip down, then it'll hill up. And so you need to be aware of that if you plan on visiting Potrero Hill, as well as many parts of the neighborhoods within the city. Now, one of the things you need to be aware of when parking throughout the city on the sidewalk is the signage indicating when you can park and how long you can park. Now, in this case, on the sign that has red on the top, red letters and white white background. It says no parking between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Wednesdays due to street cleaning. That means that if your car is parked on the sidewalk during that time frame, you run the risk of being ticketed or towed, as that's the time where the street, this particular block, is going to be cleaned. Now, underneath that sign, we have another one indicating 2-hour parking from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, except vehicles with Area X permits. And what that means is if you're during that time frame, if your vehicle doesn't have that X permit shown somewhere on your car, like maybe on your windshield or in your license plate, and you're parked beyond that 2-hour time frame, then you also run the risk of being ticketed or towed. So again, you want to make certain that you adhere to these parking signs. And usually when you see a sign indicating lettered permit, that means that usually a local resident has paid for the right to park in this area. So again, if you're visiting someone and you're trying to decide where to park, then again, you want to pay very much attention to these parking signs. Now we're going to be turning right on Sierra Street as we go eastbound briefly, and then we're going to make another right turn and within 1 block. Now here at the intersection of Sierra and Missouri, one of the things that's special about walking up these hills and down them is when you get to the intersection, you want to either look to your left or to your right or north to your south and observe the amazing scenic views of, now in this particular case, it's going to be a view of the San Pablo Bay and the East Bay Hills in the background. Now the view isn't as clear as it has been in some of the previous film shoots because the view is being obstructed by buildings, but it'll vary as you maneuver your way throughout the streets within the city and within the hills, Potrero Hill. Now when parking on hills throughout the city, especially here in Potrero Hill, it's very important that you have your wheels turned in the appropriate direction. Now, as we're going down Sierra Hill, if you're parking on the left-hand side here upwards, then your wheels need to be turned away from the sidewalk, as the case with every one of these cars on the hill. Now, the flip side of the spectrum, across the street, if you're parking in a downwards motion down the hill, then your wheels need to be turned inwards. Now, I'll show you that in a minute. So as you can see here, every car has their wheels turned inward when parking down the hill. And so this is why this is why it's important to have your wheels aligned in the appropriate direction, because if you don't, then you run the risk of being cited by the MTA in terms of improper wheel alignment. So keep that in mind when parking on the hills on the sidewalk or next to the sidewalk. So now we're going to be turning right, going southbound on Texas at the intersection of Sierra and Texas. We'll be at the 600 block going westbound, or southbound, I'm sorry. One of the things that's special about traveling throughout the neighborhood is you'll find a lot of boutique shops and restaurants, and one of which here is Quint Spa. Now they do hair, nails, waxing, and facials. They're located at 640 Texas. So as you're touring the neighborhood, you can get either your nails or hair done. Now parking varies throughout the city and neighborhood. So as I mentioned earlier about significance of parking up and down the hill, at the same token, literally right across the street here in Texas, you have a situation where you must park parallel. That is at 90-degree angle. I'll show you here in a minute. Versus perpendicular. So as you can see, each car on the right-hand side of the street of Texas is parked parallel. But then if you look to your left across the street, you'll see that the cars are required to park adjacent to the sidewalk. So as you can see, they're required to park adjacent, and also since the hill is slightly downwards, they're required to have their wheels turned inward. Now we're going to be turning left on 22nd Street going eastbound. Now we're going to be at the 1400 block of 22nd Street, and of course the cross street here is Texas. Now here's a sign that you really want to pay attention to when driving throughout the city, and this is a truck loading zone sign. And it says here, no stopping towaway except 30-minute limit with 6-wheel truck loading zone. Now from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now this is primarily for trucks that are commercial trucks that are delivering supplies to commercial establishments or business establishments. So if you park your car here during that time frame, then you will definitely be towed. So as I said earlier, pay very much attention to the parking signs that are on the sidewalk area. In regards to the explanation in the sign, it said earlier, it says here 30-minute limit. That means that you only have 30 minutes to load and unload your supplies if you are indeed a commercial truck. And it's a 6-wheel. That means that your vehicle must be 6 wheels. And of course the time frame between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., that's when the loading zone is enforceable. And let me show you on the sidewalk what the sidewalk logo looks like for truck loading zones, or the image, I should say, looks at. Now, for the truck loading zone, they are yellow markings, but we do have different markings for different designated parking zones. For instance, the passenger loading and unloading is a white zone, and then for placard parking, that is for handicap, that's a blue zone. And of course red, you're probably more familiar with, that's for buses only. But nevertheless, you want to familiarize yourself with the curved parked zones, colored park zones. So now approaching the 1100 block of 22nd Street, and as I indicated before, since we're going eastbound, the opposite direction of the arrow, that means the numbered blocks are going to be getting smaller. Meanwhile, the cross street is Pennsylvania. Okay, now here's an example of another parking zone. Now this one is the passenger loading zone. This is the white curved marking zone. And the time frame for parking here is between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And you have a 5-minute limit. So the white zone is pretty much for unloading and loading of passengers. That is, if you have a family member or a friend that you want to drop off or pick up in a certain designated area, then this would be one of the zones that you would use. Now, if you look at the emblem in red on top of the sign, you see that that's a vehicle towing a car. And that's what's going to happen to you if you do not obey these parking signs. You run the risk of getting towed if your car is parked here for more than 5 minutes. Now, the MTA is the one who enforces the parking throughout the city. And as you can see here, this is the white curved parking zone. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that are relevant to this white zone. So the first message you're going to see here on the white zone is tow away. Well, as I said before, if your car is parked here more than 5 minutes, it's going to get towed. The significance of the white zone is the passenger loading only. That is to pick up and drop off of passengers. As I indicated before, no parking in the white zone. Now, as the sign indicated, the time frame is between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the days of the week are between Monday through Saturday. So again, if you have any problems or you're still uncertain as to whether or not you can park in a specific area, then contact SF Muni at area code 673-6864. They're a great source of information for all public transit throughout the city. And also, they can provide you with transit information as well. If you plan on using public transit, again, they're a great source of information. And one final thing, this white zone is located at 698 22nd Street. If you plan on using public transit, this is one of the bus stops, and this is how the bus stop looks like. It has a pretty much red canopy over the top that kind of protects you from, any rain for the most part. It'll have a seating area. I'll show you inside in a minute. It'll have a route map and a map of the city. And some of them have a message board with time estimates. In fact, here's the number 48 bus line coming right now. Let me show you to your left. Well, here's the Caltrain train line that's making its way coming inbound into San Francisco. I'm going to briefly show you the Caltrain stop. It's a different transit system than the public transit system here in the city. But nevertheless, the Caltrain is going to take you out of the city. For example, if you're going to the South Bay, that is down near San Jose, Santa Clara, kind of is called Silicon Valley. For instance, the comparable form of public transit out of the city is BART. The BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, which takes you pretty much also down the South Bay Peninsula, but also over to the East Bay. But nevertheless, this is one of the Caltrain stops. And as I said earlier, I'm going to show you the entrance down to the actual pickup location. Now, going back to the Muni bus stop, I said before, in addition to the canopy, it also has some seating options as well. And many bus stations also have a message board that indicates when the next bus is going to be arriving, but in this particular bus stop, it does not have that. You see, that's when I'm shooting at the angle, that empty space is where the message board would usually be located, but as you can see, this bus stop doesn't have that. So on the side of the bus stop of the canopy, that is the transit information. You see you got a map of the city, you've got the times in which the buses arrive, and close to the bottom there, you've got the phone numbers for the transit information. So this is what a bus stop will normally look like. The other kind of bus stops will simply have a sign on one of the city street poles. I'll show you that later on. And there won't be a canopy like this. So you need to know where these bus stops are located to take the designated bus stop or line that you may be looking for. And finally, this bus stop is located at 1164 22nd Street. So here's the entrance to the 22nd Street Caltrain station bus stop. And as I said before, this is going to be the public transit that's going to take you from the city, to and from the city, to and from Silicon Valley. And I'll put a link in the description for their website where you can gain access to more information about Caltrain. But I said earlier, it's a great source of transportation from coming in and out of the city going southbound. Also, it's located at 1164 22nd Street. The entrance to the Caltrain station at 22nd Street. Now, just before you enter the stepwell, as you head towards the train tracks, here's a message board that's going to give you some insight about any updates on the Caltrain service. The stepwell leading down to the boarding area for the Caltrain station. So here's a pay station where you can use the Clipper card to pay for your transit ride. Now, what's special about the Clipper card? It's like a universal card. You definitely want to pick up here if you're visiting the city, as well as living as well. I use the Clipper card for pretty much all public transit, not only within the city, but also in the surrounding counties. As it's accepted by trains, buses, the light rail system. I said now here you can use it for Caltrain, you can use it for BART, and so it's very universal. And you just pay a certain amount of money that you put on the card that you can also do online, and then you don't have to worry about bringing any cash with you. So it's a great tool to have to access all public transit. I'll put a link in the description where you can learn more about the Clipper card. So here's the boarding area for the Caltrain, and you're looking southbound right now as you're heading towards Silicon Valley. Now you're looking northbound as you're coming into the city. And here's a convenient message board for the estimated time of arrivals for the trains. So you want to pay attention to that as well to ensure that you, of course, don't miss your train and give you a reasonable expectation of when the train will arrive. In fact, here's one of the trains coming right now. So you get a chance to see what the train looks like, how fast it moves. And it's a much smoother ride too, I might add, than riding on the BART transit system, which tends to, as you get close to a specific stop, tends to move a lot, shake a lot. So you always have to hang on to the handrails when you're on the BART transit system. But when you're using the Caltrain, it's a different transit system. So the stops are always smooth. I'll show you here in a minute. Here it comes. So here's the boarding options. As you can see, they have a conductor there to guide you on to the train. So now as we exit from the Caltrain station, I'm going to go back towards Pennsylvania Street, and I'm going to show you more of the southern end of Potrero Hill. Now I'm going to show you the significance of being able to identify the title of a street, and that's by looking down here at the sidewalk. What you might find is as you're walking or cycling throughout the neighborhood and you come to a street corner and then you don't see a sign identifying the street on any of the city poles, which is usually the case. So in that case, you come to the intersection, you look down on the sidewalk, and this is where you'll find the title of the street. Now in this case, this is Pennsylvania. So if you're thinking of buying residential property here in Potrero Hill, you can contact Global Luxury. Person to contact is Liz Sosnick. Area code 415-505-8848. And she's with Coldwell Banker. The website is www.701-Pennsylvania-201.com. So as we continue our journey going southbound here in Pennsylvania, you'll see that now it's flat. This portion of Potrero Hill is flat. And that's going to vary as you make your way throughout the neighborhood, as the case with all the neighborhoods during the city. Some areas are going to be flat and some areas are going to be hilly, and it's going to be a mixture of hills going up and down, and some are going to be flat. So here's the 48 bus line I was telling you earlier about when we showed the bus stop. So as you look to your left as you're going southbound on Pennsylvania, you'll see that's Highway 280. I featured it in several of my phases on significance of using Highway 280 when coming into and out of the city, when going southbound, like if you're going to the airport or coming from the San Francisco airport, versus using Highway 101. This is a very important highway to use because it's far less traffic than Highway 101. So here's an example of what I mean by the types of bus stops you're going to be looking for when trying to find public transit throughout the city. I showed you earlier the significance of the canopy with seating options and possibly a message board, maps, everything else, versus a bus stop like this where all you have is the yellow marking on the pole, a city pole. And so this is very important, as you need to be able to find your bus stop. You're looking around and you can't find it. And you come to the intersection, it'll always be at the intersection, and you look at the city poles and you look for the yellow marking, black ink saying bus stop. Now you found it. Furthermore, this bus stop is at the 900 block of Pennsylvania. Cross Street is 23rd. Now approaching the 900 block of Pennsylvania going southbound. The cross street here at the 900 block of Pennsylvania is 23rd Street. Now, as I indicated earlier, what's special when you get to an intersection is you want to look to your left, look to your right, look north, look south, and observe the amazing views that you might see. I'm going to show you a few of them here. So literally right here at the intersection of 23rd and Pennsylvania, you have one of the gardens here. It's a Green Benefit District, Penn Garden. And we have several of these gardens that are featured all throughout not only the city, but also here in Potrero Hill. And let me give you some more shots of the garden. So those of you, so as you can see, right adjacent to the sidewalk here is the Penn Garden. Now, those of you into gardens are certainly going to love this, as it stretches pretty much the length of the whole block. I'll give you some up-close shots of some of the plants here within the garden. So as I said, when you get to the intersection, as we are here at 23rd and Pennsylvania, you look towards your east, you'll see at a distance a view of the San Pablo Bay and the East Bay Hills in the background. And if you turn to the south, you'll see the tall building there in the background. That's the Salesforce Tower. I featured the Salesforce Tower when I was showcasing all the buildings on Mission Street between 5th and Main. And I'll put a link in the description for that film shoot. But the significance behind that is when you're walking on that street, on Mission Street between 5th and Main, you'll be able to see the buildings up close versus at a distance as we are right now. Now, here at the 1100 block of Pennsylvania, the cross street is 25th Street. You've got some amazing, amazing views looking southbound, eastbound, and northbound. I'll show you in a minute. So looking towards your east, you'll see the view, a bit better view of the San Pablo Bay, although somewhat obstructed by Highway 280 with the East Bay Hills in the background. And looking to your north again, you have a better unobstructed view of the Salesforce Tower. And looking towards your south, you have a better view of Highway 280. Again, as I said earlier, using 280 going out to the airport if you desire, but also in the background behind 280 is the hillside views of the homes. I featured a lot of this when my film shoot of Twin Peaks. I put a link in the description for it. So one of the things that's nice about the city is you do have directional signs directing you to where the highway entrances are at. And as you can see here, here's an entrance or directional sign leading you to Highway 280 going southbound. I'll show you where the entrance is in a minute. So here's the entrance to Highway 280 going southbound. Again, if you're heading towards the San Francisco airport, but also if you're heading towards San Jose, Santa Clara, where the 49ers play, football team. Also the Great American Amusement Park is down in Santa Clara as well. So this entrance is just a few feet from the intersection of 25th and Pennsylvania. Well, here's one of the many parks throughout the city. In fact, one of the many parks throughout the city. It's called the Tunnel Top Park. Again, located right here at the intersection of 25th and Pennsylvania. So let's check it out. And here's one of the entrances to the park. Well, as you can see, the Tunnel Top Park has a few seating options and also a plant-based area where, again, those of you who like plants, you can observe the different kinds of plants that are here while you relax and continue your journey throughout Potrero Hill. So let me give you another panoramic shot of one of the seating areas that's within Tunnel Top Park. Here's a convenient walk path within Tunnel Top Park. Another walk path within Tunnel Top Park, but I also think there's another courtyard area here within the park. Let's check that out as well. Yes, as I can see, it's like an entrance to a miniature courtyard area. So let me give you a few shots of that. Yeah, here's the view of the courtyard, but I can't determine exactly the purpose of the courtyard other than kind of a networking, relaxing area. I see a few seating options on the side where you can kind of relax and network with your colleagues and friends as you observe a view of Highway 280 and the hillside homes in the background. Now we're going to continue our journey going westbound on 25th Street at the 1400 block. As you can see, the hill is relatively steep, but not too steep. And also here's another Muni public transit coming down. So again, you can kind of see what it's like to wait for the bus to arrive. See if we can get away from the driver. Now approaching the 1600 block of 25th Street. Now, as you can see, the sun is setting, and that's one of the things that's really special as well when you're roaming the hill of Potrero Hill is the sunsets. They're not as dramatic as you would find if you're right at the Pacific Ocean on the west side of the city, because you have the hills that are kind of obstructing the full extent of the sunset. But nevertheless, it's still special. Now we're going to turn right on Dakota Street as we head westbound. Now we're going to turn left on 23rd Street at the 1600 block going westbound. So between the fence, as you can see, is another wonderful shot of Highway 280 and hillside homes and mountains. Now as we approach the 1900 block of 23rd Street, I'm going to show you something special in regards to one of the many hidden gems within the city as well as here in Potrero Hill. So as you can see, if you were driving throughout the neighborhood, the 23rd Street comes to a dead end. However, if you're walking through the neighborhood, let me show you how you get around this dead end. The sidewalk stepwell. Now, we have thousands of stepwells all throughout the city, and they're mainly designed to allow you to connect from one street to another, from one block to another, especially when you have situations like this where there's a dead end. So let me show you more of the miniature stepwell here. So here's the part of the miniature stepwell that will allow you to continue your journey on 23rd Street. So now we're able to continue our journey going westbound on 23rd Street. Now this particular hill on 23rd Street is very steep, so as I mentioned earlier, you want to pay very much attention or be aware of the steepness of some of these hills. Now approaching the 2000 block of 23rd Street. It's kind of a dead end here slightly. You'll have to just veer to your left, kind of zigzag your way until you find the continuation of 23rd Street. So here you'll find another step well that's going to allow you to continue your journey on 23rd Street. And the reason why I bring up the step well as a hidden gem is that, as I said before, we have thousands of them throughout the city, and there's two ladies that created a book on the significance of all the step wells in the city, because some of them are kind of pretty plain, as this one is, but then some of them are more creative, elaborate. They're really fun to see and walk on. And so I'll put a link in the description so you can learn more about the step wells in the city. Now as we continue our journey in the 2000 block of 23rd Street going westbound, cross street is Carolina. Now I'm going to show you something that's really, really special. You're going to see as part of your reward for walking up these hills. Now how about this view of the San Francisco skyline? This is the hillside skyline as you're going westbound facing Twin Peaks. Now I featured Twin Peaks at how you doing? At a different film shoot, which was spectacular because you'll get a panoramic view of the whole city. But this is one of the things that's really special, as I mentioned before repeatedly. When you get to these intersections, you look to your left, you look to your right, you look east, west, north, south, and you're going to have these amazing views of the city. Now let me give you another wonderful shot of the hillside homes before we continue westbound. Now approaching the 2100 block of 23rd Street. Now approaching the 2200 block of 23rd Street going westbound. Now approaching the 2300 block of 23rd Street, and the cross street is Kansas. Now I'm going to show you something special in that we're kind of at the base of 23rd Street from walking down the hill, and so your view is going to be slightly different. I'll show you in a minute. So now you're receiving another wonderful view of the hillside homes and the Sucho Tower is part of Twin Peaks. I mentioned earlier that what's special about Twin Peaks is this is the tower that allows that the local TV stations use to transmit their signals, and it's just wonderful up there near Twin Peaks. Now here's a bridge that's going to first take you over Highway 101, and second, it's going to connect you to the Mission District. Now we're going to feature the Mission District in a different film shoot, but I want to emphasize as I mentioned earlier, the significance of using Highway 101 versus Highway 280. As you can see, as I mentioned earlier, Highway 101 can be very congested and crowded, and as you see here, the traffic is moving a little bit better than usual, but for the most part, it always has more traffic coming into and out of the city than Highway 280 does. Nevertheless, you can still use it to take you out of the city into, let's say, the south of San Francisco if you're going to the San Francisco airport, or as you're coming from the airport coming into the city. Now, this view is if you were driving out of the city. Those cars to the right of the highway are going out of the city. The cars to the left are coming into the city. Now just across the street, on the same highway 101, the cars to the right are going to be going into the city, and then the cars to the left are going to be coming out of the city. Now we're going to turn left on Kansas Street going southbound at the 1200 block of Kansas. And of course the cross street is 23rd. And one of the things that's special about some of the streets in the city is that There are bike lanes for those of you that are cycling. You have your own designated bike lane, which is really nice and very convenient for cyclists. So now we're going to turn left on 24th Street going eastbound, and we're going to be approaching the 2200 block of 24th Street. Now, the reason why we're making these left and right turns more frequently, as I mentioned at the beginning of the film shoot, is that in the southern portion of Potrero Hill, the streets are not as long as they are on the northern side of Potrero Hill. So my objective is to highlight all the points of interest as we work our way down the hill, from the top portion of the hill, which separates kind of the northern end versus the southern end. So as you can see, now it's back to going up the hill, but as I mentioned before, you will be rewarded with great views when you get to the top. Now approaching the 2100 block of 24th Street. The cross street is Rhode Island, and as you will see in a few minutes, it's pretty steep. Now here at the intersection of Rhode Island and 24th Street, notice the difference in the steepness of the hills as you look northbound, as we are right now, and then I'm going to show you in a minute as you look eastbound. So as you can see, this hill is very steep as you look eastbound, but nevertheless on this particular hill is interesting. This block has step wells on both sides of the hill, but ironically it's not the steepest hill in the city. There's a tie for the steepest hill in the city, and there one is in Noe Valley and the other is in Russian Hill, which is adjacent to the Lombard Crooked Street, and they're both 31.5 grade. We'll feature those in a later film shoot. Well, here still at the corner of 24th Street in Rhode Island, I noticed a tree. It looks like a lemon tree, but I can't be for certain. I tried talking to one of the locals here, and he couldn't determine it as well, because some of the fruit appears to be small enough to be a lemon, but then some of the fruit is very large. I'll give you an up-close shot here in a minute. So you see that fruit that's in the middle of the tree here, it's fairly large. It appears to be too large for a lemon, but the way some of the other fruit looks, it appears as though it might be a lemon tree. It's hard to say. So as we proceed going eastbound on 24th Street, I mentioned earlier that on the sides, both sides of 24th Street are step wells for sidewalks. A lot of the sidewalks don't have step wells, but in this case some of them do. And that goes into what I was saying earlier about the significance of all the step wells that are here within the city. So now we're at the 2000 block of 24th Street. The cross street is Potrero. And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be rewarded again with another phenomenal view of the city skyline. Let me show you. So you see we made it to the top of the steep hill here, and the views are magnificent as always. Notice how the gravel of the block also is kind of chopped up into multiple cement, so to speak. You don't see that too often within some of the blocks here in the city. So let me show you your wonderful view. As you see, the sun just set, and you can't really see the sunset beyond those hillside homes in the background, but nevertheless, you do get somewhat of a sunset, as you see also in the background Sutro Tower. The other thing that's, before we move on, is special about after the sunset here in the city is how the city lights up. Not only in the downtown area, which is really spectacular because they simply have more lights within their buildings, but also the hillside homes will light up as well. And it's also very nice to check out. Now, here's kind of like a miniature rock hill that I'm not certain what is up at the top, but we'll check it out. I'm also trying to see if there's a step well leading up there. Well, further observation revealed that there is no step well taking you up to the top of the hill as we move eastbound from Potrero. So you'd have to turn right on Potrero going southbound to get to the top, which is kind of rare because there's almost always some form of a step well at the intersections. But let's check it out. Well, what do you behold? So it's halfway down on the left-hand side of the Harrell. Here's a road taking you up to that mountain hill. Well, looks like if you turn left here, you can continue on going up towards the top of that hill. I don't know what the name of the street is though. Actually, this road is a part of the Harrell. It's just another portion of the Harrell Street. As I said earlier, as you're going southbound, it's just a mini road where there's more homes here, but it's kind of unique in this regard. So here's that mountain I was telling you earlier. We're at the intersection of the Harrell and 24th Street. So let's get to the top and see what the views are going to be like. Oh yeah, the views are incredible. Here's a bench area. As you're walking up the hill, there's still more elevation on the hill, but you can relax at this bench and sit with your colleague or significant other and absorb the amazing, phenomenal hillside mountain views. I'll show you. So as you can see, when the sun sets, then the city lights up and the views are really amazing. This is a very romantic spot, I think. You could bring your significant other and observe Sutro Tower, the city homes on the hills. And let me give you another shot as you're looking. This shot is looking kind of southwest. Now let me show you northwest. Now this view, you're looking northwest as you're looking towards the Golden Gate Bridge, although you can't really see the bridge from this angle because it's obstructed by some of the hillside homes there. Now I'm going to provide you with a panoramic view of the hillside homes and Sutro Tower. Here's another panoramic view of the hillside homes and Sutro Tower. Now let's go to the very top of the hill where the trees are at. Oh yeah, this is even more spectacular because not only do you get the same views I showed you earlier of the hillside homes and Sutro Tower, but when you get to the very top here and you look to the south, you're going to also see more of the hillside homes south of San Francisco. That's considered, either South San Francisco as you approach San Mateo County as well. So as you look to the north, you're going to see an up-close view of some of the hillside homes versus at a distance. So essentially this hill is called the Starr King Open Space Reserve. And it's definitely one of the many hidden gems that you'll have throughout the city. For instance, some neighborhoods have these kind of miniature park hill areas where you can get these wonderful views of the city skyline. And as I mentioned many times before, it's just one of the many hidden gems throughout the city. And we got here from the base of 24th Street and the Harrell, but I believe there may be a few other entrances. Let's check that out. I know it's getting kind of dark here, but there's a chair, a large chair, that's facing the south end of the city. And as we remember, when you're looking at the south end, you're looking at Highway 280 as well as the hillside homes. But let me give you a closer look at this chair. I know it's getting kind of dark. You might not be able to see it. So here now you're looking at the front end of the chair, again, if it's not too dark. And it's kind of like a romantic chair, so to speak, and it's very large, and it's great for you and your significant other to sit, relax, and absorb the views of the south of San Francisco. So the other way to get here, if you're driving to the top of the base of this reserve, is at the corner intersection of Carolina and Coral Street is where you'll find the top of the hill of this amazing park. Well, this concludes our Phase 6 film shoot at Potrero Hill. If you liked everything you saw and learned, appreciate if you would subscribe to my channel, comment, like, share with your family and friends, and also don't forget to log onto my website and view my blog, where I give you more of the details centered around these adventures. And also I'll provide a route map that shows you the actual route that I use to come throughout the various neighborhoods. And then finally on the website you can subscribe to my newsletter, where you'll receive a PDF file indicating all the addresses to the points of interest. And the website is PairRec.com. That's PAIRREC.com. I'll put a link in the description along with all the phases of the adventures in Potrero Hill and also the other adventures throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. And finally, don't forget to tune in to Phase 7 as we continue our journey on the southern portion of Potrero Hill. That's all for now. Have a nice evening, and we will see you on the next film shoot. Goodbye.